Have you ever gone to the conference and you have this really inspiring situation and you walk away like, oh, you feel so good. And then you get back into your Tuesday morning 10 a.m. meeting and you're like, well, how do I do that now? What, like, how does that work when I'm trying to decide if I'm going to send a Teams message to my boss or pick up the phone? What does this mean? How do I do it? I hate that feeling. I hate it so much because one of the goals I have as a keynote speaker and an author is to help you in those little moments. I love to be inspired. I like inspiring people from the stage, but if you walk away with nothing to change, then it's just a kind of feel good moment that leaves. And that's not what Joyosity is about. So, welcome to the Joyosity podcast. Whether you are a new listener or you've been around since the beginning, I'm so glad that you are here. We are wrapping up a season on Joyosity in practice, which is how leaders stay human when it matters the most. Because Joyosity isn't just a nice idea. It's the way that we practice our leadership every day, how we connect with other people, how we build workplaces where people actually flourish. And you can choose the bravery of joy when it's easier to stay quiet and just protect the status quo. Leadership is in these small, quiet moments when pressure happens and you combat the belief that you should have it all together by now. And that's where your joy really matters. Joy isn't optimism. It is not pretending things are fine. And it's definitely not toxic positivity. And because it is about working at it every day, this season or this series has been about that, interviewing real leaders with real tensions and real moments where they have the choice to stay human and move forward with authentic leadership that actually creates better workplaces. And we did a part 1 in case you missed it last week, and we are returning with part 2 to give you those practical answers to the question of, well, now what? And returning is Michael Whitmer. Michael is a leader. He talks so much about leadership and team culture. He's an expert in brands and values-based communication, and he has a deep heart for people and one who shares incredible insights around belonging, trust, and purposeful leadership. He is vice president at Look East, and in case you hadn't guessed already, he is also my husband. So let's welcome Michael for this part 2 of our discussion. Welcome.
Hello, hello. It's good to be back on.
Welcome back. I am really excited for us to get to the answers to the now what, to the what do I do? Not only because I, as an educator to my core, like as part of my identity, I need you to be able to do something with this. I think it's also one of the questions you ask a lot. After, well, why is this so? Which is probably your number one question. Why is this happening? How do I do this? I think is the question I hear you ask yourself, others, me, all of those. Like, how do you do this? And so I'm excited for us to explore that a little bit. I would love to hear, I didn't prep you with this question. What are you excited to talk about in this episode? Like, why does this next part matter to you?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think just like as you started, it is it's where the pieces kind of come together. I loved hearing each of these leaders tell their stories, and it gave me a lot of sympathy for where they've been like, oh, I've been there too. I've seen that. I've had that experience or whatever. And so there was a lot of that, but it was the little nuggets out of each of them that I was like, oh, this is coming together for me in a way that helps me approach my daily work differently, or to approach the situations and the people that I'm working with better or differently. So it's the practical application of it. Love the stories, but I want to put this into practice.
Yeah. So I have a few themes that I took away from this season or this series, and how these really disparate leaders came together. We'll have them all in the show notes in this series, so you can go back and listen to them all. The first one is really the theme that I'm constantly coming back to, which is joy isn't extra. Joy isn't fluffy. Joy isn't light. In my book and in the keynotes, I usually describe joy as the opposite of cotton candy and balloons. Cotton candy melts on your tongue and it dissolves, it's gone. And balloons pop or deflate or float away or live in our basement with the Michael Whitmer balloon lover. But that's not what joy is. That joy is really rooted more like lavender. It has these really deep roots. And the three indicators of joy that I am constantly coming back to are: one, that you feel favored or fortunate. Like joy means that you're like, I can't believe I get to do this. Not everything, but this component, this. And the second thing is joy brings you connection and belonging. Like how you know that you're a part of the team. We as humans, we want to be a part of the team. And number three is that what you're doing impacts more than just you. Like it has a greater benefit to other people. And those are the three signals that joy is happening, which is why joy helps us be resilient, which is why joy is so gritty. It's not just this light and fluffy thing. So what are some of the helpful, practical things you took away under that theme, that idea that joy is necessity, not just extra?
One of the things that really stood out to me from Heather Campbell's discussion as you were talking with her about tracking wins and wisdom and writing down some of the glimmers of things. And I remember an early boss of mine being pretty clear about, hey, you need to start a smile file. Anytime you get something, get feedback from a client or you get a note from somebody, put that in your smile file. And I didn't realize at the time that what that boss was helping me do was to put the right script in my brain about what I was doing or about what was going on, that I could go back to something like that. And I think even Heather talked a little bit about how you recoding some of the things that you talk about. And so I think on a really practical level, you need a smile file, writing down the things that are the joys, the things that that are really fulfilling and are bringing you some of that, and like tangibly writing it down and keeping track of it. I think was an important one I took away.
I remember you were earlier in your career. I think I'd only been teaching for a couple of years when that boss told you that. And I was like, what? Because this is how old we are. Email was also fairly new. And I was like, a smile file? I'm always joyful. What is that about? And thinking back to that, as you were saying, why did I resist that? And it was because my MO would be to avoid and just be like, oh, well, at least, and just reframe rather than remember the actual key specificity of what was happy about that, or what was joyful, or what was the accomplishment. And I've clearly grown since there's like a whole section of the Joyosity Works playbook on how to do that and what I do with my own coaching clients. And what I'm doing this year is I have a wall that we can't see, but I'll show you part of that is the glimmers that it says, how good can it get? Mm-hmm. And sorry, Home Depot, got paint strips. And I started writing down these little glimmers, the specificity again. It's this visual smile file. And a same client came back to me saying that it's the most popular session that we've ever had. And so we want to have you back. I mean, that was huge. Yeah. This one says, I got to inbox 0 on every platform. They are not always big. But those things really matter in understanding our own joy and accomplishments, because what we're doing, I feel lucky about that. I'm impacting other people and I feel like I'm connected to something. And your smile file, I do still have in my inbox a smile file. It's just expanded into more and bigger things. How
Well,
do
it
you
continues to be important. I think in that conversation that you were having was also around the idea that you need to be careful about which metrics you're choosing to make success. What is success in our business environment? So often we've got pretty clear KPIs that need to be hit or need to be whatever. And but in that discussion, there was like there's a lot of meaningful things that are well beyond what can be counted. And
Yes.
so the value of those glimmers that you're putting up, that you're writing down, that you're putting in front of you, beat the number of clicks on you have on your website in your or for me, the things that I look back at some of the impact I've made on people's lives, that matters to me more than did I get sales up to this level this quarter or whatever. And
Mhm.
so in the pressure of the regular parts of our life that are screaming at us, you need to meet these particular levels. It's like what is important, and all coming back to values, and there's a lot underneath that. But I think just really practically keeping track of some of the things that are the joy that is surrounding us.
I think what to reiterate that idea around measurement, because I do talk about we have an obsession with measurement that gets us off track.
Mm-hmm.
And some of that is because we think of measurement as quantitative all of the time.
Mm-hmm.
That measurement can be qualitative, like what is the quality of this work? And I can't remember if I mentioned it on the podcast, but I learned this from Jenny Blake, who is a fellow author and amazing human in general. But to add a qualitative element to what I am goal setting. Like when I am goal setting, what's the qualitative element? And I typically add on with ease and joy. So when I'm reminding myself of what my goal is, if I can't get there with ease and joy, then there is something that is off, because the quality matters just as much as whatever that goal is. And it's such a good reminder when we become so pressured by measurement at work all the time that we do get to add a qualitative component to that is somewhat unmeasurable in many ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So one of the other themes that I pulled out from these experts was that leadership happens in these really seemingly quiet moments, that when we fall apart and erosion happens, it's in this quiet moment. And also that joy shows up in these everyday mechanics of our leadership, these tiny, seemingly tiny choices. What did you learn from this group or listening to this series around that? I'm going to call them small moments.
Yeah, I think that all of them almost universally talk to some about knowing yourself and like maturity and that level of like really understanding where you're coming from. But Karen talked a lot about the fact that knowing yourself and knowing that your past experiences shaped who you are and that there is value in that. Even when we're like, I am afraid or I hate the parts of my experiences that I've had, but they actually did shape you and do make some of that work. So I think that that was really powerful to think about, like that my past experiences that shaped me and I didn't want all of those experiences, but I do like that they've shaped me in some way and make me more empathetic to situations that people are coming from. Or I'm better as a marketer because I think about what we're working on from the target audience's perspective. So I'm like, how are they going to receive this? And so it has shaped part of my work and how I that's part of my experiences have shaped part of me. And then another like important thing I think that Catherine talked about listening is part of your technical skill. So as a graphic designer, she's got like she has these technical skills, but really listening first and taking things in. I think as leaders, we're ready to jump in, or we want to be solution oriented, but part of our technical skill is listening.
Yeah. Well, that's why I call listening. That's why I call listening a people power skill. Mm-hmm. It is such a key part of communication, communication isn't just the words that come out of your mouth or out of your fingers when you type something. Communication is very much listening as well. It is a both and. And I love calling it a technical skill, like it is part of your technical leadership skill. And it just seems more weighty for some reason, but I still like my people power skill there.
Well, absolutely. And I think what comes to mind there is that so you were asking about like what erodes things to begin with when you stop listening, or you forget that you can be better at listening. Like you can practice being better at listening, not just waiting for your turn to talk, but like really taking the time to absorb the information and be curious about listening. And so I think the erosion, which was the kind of the first part you're talking about, is when we stop doing that. When we stop taking seriously that this is an important part of your work is to listen, or it's an important part of your work to know yourself and to know that your experiences have shaped you in a way, because they have certainly shaped that person that you're talking to or that situation that you're coming into. So those are, I think, things that we as leaders need to continue. We need to continually be learning how to listen.
Yeah. When I think about all this idea around small moments, when I was an educator, I helped teachers learn how to teach and assess writing. That was part of my role. And we always had to bring students back to the mini moment. There were all kinds of words that we used depending on the age of the kid, from 4 or 5 years old through 12, 14, or however old they were. And I come back to that idea a lot when I think about leadership moments, because we have this idea that the leadership moment is the giant project. Mm-hmm. So, for example, you've been working on this giant project that has implications with influencers and information spreading and it is a huge project with a very large budget. But it's the conversation with that one influencer on the phone that started to shape, here's how this project can go. Or talking to somebody else about understanding their decision-making process in the budget or whatever. It's those tiny moments. Mm-hmm. The big project is kind of a misnomer, because every large project gets broken down into smaller things. Every project manager will tell you that. Yep. And leadership is much like that. It's not just the big project. It's not just the big push to the end of the year. I have an executive client he's got these big KPIs that happen in December. And I'm like, well, it's March. So you can't make December happen. It's got to be these tiny moments. And he's like, oh yeah, it's this meeting I have to have next week about this. And these mini moments are the moments where I think we're tested, and we can choose that brave joy that connects us with the people. The impact is greater. Or I can just be like, whatever, that's fine. I'm going to let you do your thing. I'm going to stop listening. I'm going to back off. And not that every single meeting has to be, a stake in the ground. Hear me. But we do have those tiny moments where we can choose the joy of it with ease and joy. I can choose to listen when I would rather push forward. Rohit talked a lot about being trendy or resonant. Mm-hmm. I can choose to be resonant right now, or I can just let it be. Those mini moments are the times where I think we have the most decisions to make. And also you can come back to them. So I've had to go back and said, you know what? I stepped over this. I should have said this at this moment. I know that it is more difficult now, but I still think it's important. That is I can still feel it in my gut sometimes where I've had to do that, where it's uncomfortable and you feel like you're eating humble pie, but it's so much better. It's those small moments that create high performing leaders and teams, not some big idea. I don't know how you feel about that. How does that land with you?
That lands really well with me, because one of the things that I was just thinking about too is in your discussion with Melissa about small experiments make it safer to
Mhm.
to be able to kind of work through things. And I know I've had in this big project, I've had some opportunities where the CEO has been like, well, let's experiment a little bit with that. And man, does that like take a little bit of the pressure off when I feel
Yeah.
like, okay, I have to come back. I have to say that experiment did not work. That we thought it was going to
Those
do this, and now it's done this. Now we've learned something from it, and he's really huge about that. About like, well, there we go. That's what we needed, was learning. But the like being able to call it well, let's experiment a little bit with that. Took the pressure off of meeting a KPI or whatever, and so then it made it a little bit easier to be able to report back, keep lines of communication really open about what's working and what's not working among the entire team. So our junior members who are like, "Ooh, it just didn't perform as well as we want," and I'm able to say, "Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
great. That's what we needed. We needed to know if it would do this, and I'll report up, and that sort of thing." So just a practical example of the small experiments being a safe place to work.
It's such great language about those small experiments that, I mean, and Melissa shared about that. One of the things that I often say is let's play with that for a little bit. It's a
Mm-hmm.
similar idea and it has a slightly different messaging in your brain, but they both get at this idea that this isn't the end all or be all and it has to be perfect right now. Like
Right.
letting us play with this for a little bit. Let's experiment with it. The other thing that I think creates less friction or a lower bar to jump over is Carla Peters, who is a graphic designer and also another great person. She has talked about minimum viable magic.
Mm-hmm.
We talk a lot about minimum viable product in
Uh-huh.
product
Right.
language and corporate world, but of course I'm me. And so I love her language of minimum viable magic. What's the minimum that creates that, which also lowers the bar if we pair that with the experiment? Well, let's experiment with this as minimum viable magic. And then we'll see how it goes. And I'm rethinking a lot of things about what's next after Joyosity's been published and speaking at some big conferences like South by Southwest. And I've got an invitation to some international things now, which is great, but it makes me have to rethink some things. So what's the minimum viable magic that I can experiment with to continue to help leaders create more joy in what they do, so it really matters, so they're less exhausted, that they are more effective in their work? What can I experiment with too? I have to do it for myself. And so I love that language that loosens it up a little bit
Mm-hmm.
and makes it a little bit better. And creative people will tell you that all the time. So the last theme that I want to talk about is this idea of staying human beats being perfect, and that to continue this idea of that small intentional shifts are what create real change. I mean, many of the leaders that we had on talked about enoughness and good over perfection, handling our emotions and not abandoning yourself, the danger of dehumanizing yourself or other people in the name of performance, or disconnecting in the name of what the CEO wants I'm going to do, and that having to come back and experiment with culture in that way. What are some of the things that you heard that were like small intentional things that we can try and create real change as leaders?
There were quite a few things I think that go in that vein. One that really stood out was just kind of from a few different people, was about how to deliver feedback, and like we need practice. We need to think about and practice a little bit about how we deliver feedback. The sandwich is a terrible idea, and like there's just like a variety of different ways that we've been taught to do, or heard of it, I guess, but not really taught how to give good feedback. And so which for me has led to just avoiding conflict. So I can't give good feedback, so I'm just not even going to deal with that, and that does not work.
Yeah. What are some of the ideas that you got from giving good feedback? Some practical nitty gritty.
I think it was Rohit that was talking some about I like this where this is going. I don't understand this part. And rather than I don't like that, or I don't think that's not a good idea. I mean, he's an expert and he would know what is not working, but he's opening it up more with I don't understand this part, which certainly is with curiosity, seeking out where are you coming from with this. And I think that was kind of the same thing or similar with Catherine when you're looking at designs. Everybody thinks they're a graphic designer, and so it's. I see where you're going with this. Tell me more about that. And listening and being curious about where the person is coming from, open them up a little bit more to, yeah, we're not going to do that. Or,
yeah.
Can I try this thing to extend your idea? And so she just both of them brought some good ideas about how to deliver feedback. I know you offer a lot of good ways for us to use feedback sessions and to open up communication and that sort of thing. So those are some really practical ones that stood out to me.
One of the things that Karen and I can't remember if we were actually recording at this point or not. We might have been after. Sorry, friends. But we were talking about how both of us, when we're talking about feedback besides ditch the feedback sandwich, which is actually the title of one of my talks, is really caring for the person first, especially as an attorney. She's like, people forget that. Like they kind of want to get to the rules.
Right.
And that I'm sharing this with you because I'm out for your good, or I want us to work well together. Like beginning with that, not here's what you did well and here's the zinger, and then but you're still an okay person. That is unhelpful. That's the feedback sandwich if you are new to that concept. Rather than what is more helpful is you have so many great things to offer, and I want to offer you some things to help you get better, or I am here and committed to your success. I want us to work through this well together, if it's a peer kind of thing. That starting with relationship in feedback is so much more powerful, because even if the person is nervous, they know something's coming. You're like, you can feel it, something's coming. But if you start with the preface of like, I'm going to share some hard things because I want us to work well together, I want your success, just starts to lower the temperature a little bit and grounds it in something. Not just like, I'm going to give you this random advice. Yeah. And Karen and I talked a lot about that HR can deliver the feedback sandwich and it's just a flop and it's horrible. Yeah.
Well, what are some a little bit about what that, what goes with that is then, I mean, in a one-on-one, or where you're taking care of one of your employees or something like that, you can see it where that practically works out. I think the same thing happens when you're in a collaborative environment and people are like, well, I'm just not going to say anything. I don't know. We all need to say something about what we're seeing up on the screen. Now it is, or whatever in our, we're collaborating on this project. And so we're trying to give the right kind of feedback, not just nice, but like, where can we really improve? Because we're all after this project being better. And we're throwing lots of ideas on the table. There's the time where it is all ideas, and then there is the time to hone, and then there is the time to edit, and then there is the but like just being willing and able to collaborate with your teammates or your clients or any of the people that you're working with, is so critical in the work that we're doing every day.
And I think that ties into what Ken was talking about the pause, about the space. Because if somebody's put something before you and you get all activated, you're like, oh, like you're starting to get either afraid or angry or whatever, being in charge of your emotions and being able to pause before you say that thing is amazingly helpful. And one of the things that I teach people how to do is I call it 4-corner calm breathing, because it only takes about 16 seconds, 30 seconds, and you can do it without anybody noticing it. And really just taking those deep breaths, and the corners are the 4-second counts, like in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. And obviously you're not going to do some big old like sigh. That is completely unhelpful. But you can do that deep breathing and create the pause that Ken was talking about, starts to put us back in charge rather than our emotions running the show. Our emotions still get to be part of it, but they're not out in front shouting or whatever else havoc they're going to wreak if we aren't the ones in control. And I just find that incredibly helpful. And it's one of those things that, yes, feels like an eternity sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody else notices. Like I have experimented with this enough to know that nobody else is noticing if you're thinking about it, especially if you're like, I want to pause and consider that. And you start breathing a little bit, because then you've already told people you're pausing and you're creating that space for everybody to pause. Now, sometimes you'll have eager beavers who want to jump in and go, and you can say, hold on, I really did want to pause.
Yeah.
You might have to be brave to say that. But for the most part, if you say, I want to pause for a second and consider that before I respond, you get that time. People will give it to you. And everybody else is thankful for a moment too. I think those types of small decision-making moments, to get in control of your emotions, to consider how you want to phrase something, to get specific rather than general. Specific is almost always better. I think are those powerful small moments that create big change for people and build real trust. I know as a speaker, one of the tricks, if you've ever been in a keynote with me, is I'll come out and I pause for, I don't actually count it. I feel it, but it's probably 3 to 5 seconds before I say anything, which is different. A lot of people start like, thank you so much for having me here, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
But it does a lot of things when you're getting ready to speak, because public speaking is scarier for some people than it is for me, but I still want to have that captured audience. So it gets me together. So because I can be a little, as my lovely speaker coach, Sally, calls it pigpen energy. I can get a little up here, a little excited. And so it gets me together because I'm not really nervous. I'm just excited. It gets me together enough that people aren't like, what is happening?
Yeah.
It also helps the audience. They start to lean in. They're like, oh, something's going to happen. And that pause is powerful in that little moment as well. Man, I wish we could keep talking because I think there are so many more great things that you can add.
I got all my notes here, my 3 pages of notes, the stuff that I would,
Okay, well, I'm going to give you 2 things. One is how can people continue to connect with you? Because you in and of yourself are an amazing, experienced leader. Look East has so much to offer. You, Michael, have so much to offer. I want to give that. And then any other nuggets that you felt like, oh, I really wanted to give this nugget to the people if we didn't get a chance to say that.
Yeah. Well, so people can definitely connect with me at Look East, and you can find my LinkedIn by just searching for it. Or what I'd really love to offer you is if you're in a place where you're doing some public speaking, maybe you are actually speaking from the podium, or you're going to be in some situation where you're doing a panel discussion or something. Those can be kind of nerve-wracking places, and not all of us are as good as Jennifer, at doing this stuff. So we put together the 5 keys to mastering your public presentation. And so the QR code just takes you right to a free tool, free piece that you can download. And it really is about how to put together some of your values and put them into a way that you can interact with the media. We know that is a big part of how to communicate effectively, is putting your message together. Wherever there's a lot of different situations that we're in, and being prepared as a leader to talk is really important, but it can also be pretty nerve-wracking. So we put together just an easy 5 tips, 5 keys to mastering your public presentation that can help you walk through both some tips on what to do and how to put your messages together. So want to make that available to anybody. And then as you go through that.
Can I ask a question?
Sure can.
What if I'm not a public speaker? What am I getting from these 5 tips? Is there more for me as well?
Well, most of us are not public speakers, and so it really helps you put yourself into the right mindset, as well as how to construct your own talk, or what are the things that you're going to be sharing about. More importantly, for me at least, is how to answer difficult questions. So a lot of media training is about how to acknowledge what the question is, how to then bridge to your own topic. And we have a unique way that we go about doing that, so that it's values-based and is even more effective in your communication with your audience.
I mean, it sounds like to me being prepared for difficult questions could work in like a meeting I'm getting ready
Yes.
to
Yeah.
as well.
If you might consider your next meeting, your panel discussion, then yes, this is all very effective for how to. Now, it is a little bit different in that when you're on stage and you have people looking at you, but they're all very effective for how you think about communicating in all parts of your life.
Great. That's exciting. I actually have glanced at this and I'm like, oh, that's really good. And so I'm excited for you all to get that. And tell us the name of it one more time.
So it is the 5 keys to mastering your public presentation. So that is not only a presentation from the stage, but also in some of the Q&A. We help you set up a structure for how to do that pretty easily.
Okay. Anything else that you're like, oh, I didn't get to say this, that I think this was a really great takeaway from this series that we didn't get to?
I don't have one thing. I think that the combination of the things that are in this series are really worth it. It's like from every single leader where I picked up something from them that I'm going to use, and the combination of them all together really showcase what Joyosity is and what the movement is about, what you're trying to accomplish and what we're trying to accomplish in the workplace. It doesn't have to be like it used to be. It doesn't have to be like the way that we've all think that it's we're stuck in. And I think that there was a sense from the leaders that you brought to talk on the podcast, collectively and individually, that helped me just be more encouraged about, okay, we don't have to get stuck in the old way.
Oh, well, I love to hear that. I hope you, listener, feel that as well. If you got to listen to the series, go back and listen to the series. We'll put the names in the show notes so you can get to all of that. We'll put the tips to mastering your public presentation in the show notes as well, so you can get that. And as always, I would love to hear what this conversation stirred up for you. Hopefully what you're taking away are some really practical nuggets that you can apply in your Tuesday 10 a.m. meeting, in your real walking around life at work, and hopefully maybe at home too, because we also have to live together, these two people, and should do a lot of this with each other and our kids as well. And so I'd love to hear what challenged you, what you've tried, what you're still thinking about. You can share that always, on LinkedIn and Instagram. You can send me an email, Jen, with 2 N's, at jenwhitmer.com, or a DM on those places. And again, we'll have all of those pieces of information in the show notes. You can connect with Michael Whitmer as well on LinkedIn, and we'll have his LinkedIn also in our show notes. And as you head back to your day, I need to get an actual coach hat for this section, because I can't let you go without encouraging you to try one small thing. Pick one thing. You don't have to do it all. What's the minimum viable magic that you can take away from this podcast today and connect more with yourself? So even if leadership is challenging right now, you can start that one small intentional change. And maybe that one small thing is to share this episode with people. If you found it helpful, share it with a fellow leader. When you rate and subscribe, it just helps other people find Joyosity and really spread the idea that joy isn't extra. Joy is the very thing that we need, because joy has the audacity to believe the future belongs to those of us who practice joy. So thanks so much for being with us today. We are so grateful for you, Michael. Thank you for being with us as well. Bye, everybody.
Take care.